Hello, everybody. Welcome to Veterans Voice this week with my special guest, David B., a regional manager for Walking with the Wounded. Hello, David. How are you?
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine. A few technical hitches. I hope we've got people here because Muppet Matt pressed the wrong button earlier on and we went live at 7 o'clock by mistake.
Well,
so
it looks like nobody, so you and I can have a chat, so that's great.
Yeah, that's it. If they don't jump in, we'll have a good old chin wag anyway. We'll have a look and see if they come in. Anyway, by now, people should know what we do. We pass on veterans' messages and experiences to people already leaving the armed forces. A bit of knowledge goes a long way. So feel free to pile in with a comment. Yes, Jerry's here, so that means we did something right. So feel free to pile in with a comment like Jerry's done. And then we'll have a little bit of banter. And Louis knows who you are. Then no doubt. Oh, that's your son. That's your son, professional rugby player. I understand. Hats off to you. I had one game of rugby once, and that was me. Got walked over literally. So feel free to pile in with the comments. We'll bring up as many as we can. First of all, before we go anywhere, tell me about surprise.
Oh, it's top secret. So it's clearly over 30 years, so it now can be shared with the nation. Volunteers were requested. We jumped at the opportunity, choreography for a week, did a little dance routine, ended up with Cilla Black live show. They put us in the green room first. It went south from there, but good audience, good fun. Yeah, it was a classic surprise. There is nothing like a Dame. Well,
it was no surprise that the Navy mixed with alcohol in the green room ended in something going south.
Well, I think that's slightly unfair. Honestly, it was free.
Yeah, very good. Before we go anywhere, you've just granted me a little bit of license. Jerry Matthews Smith is on here. She runs she's been running a study, and she'll no doubt put something in the comments about armed forces. If you left the armed forces within the last 10 years, they're doing a study at Edinburgh Napier University. Having said that, the Navy and the RAF are not holding their end up. They're doing a bit shabby. The Army has piled in there with lots of responses, but the Navy and the RAF are a little bit behind. So let's show Jerry what our forces can do. Jerry, if you can stick a link in the comments, that would be great. So on with this show. Do you want to just give us a little bit of a flavour of your background, what you're up to? And how you joined and what you did whilst you were in the Navy.
Yeah, okay. So as a young man, press ganged by my father, once Royal Marine, into the careers office. First visit, Mr. Beer, he's only 15, he's not old enough. So at the earliest opportunity, I was then placed in the support of Her Majesty's Royal Navy. A fantastic 8 years, lucky enough to do some big trips, and also was fortunate enough to be selected to run field gun on 2 occasions at the Royal Tournament. Highlight of my life, let alone my Navy career.
That is amazing, I must say. Hats off.
Yeah, good times. Stick with me. Yeah. And then left the mob for what I believe was greener grass, but clearly wasn't. But what it did do is kind of fast-track me into the prison service. 20 years in the prison service, predominantly in London and home counties prisons. Went into PE, physical education, did really well working in the gymnasiums, both with, just general gym education. And then I moved into resettlement and finished in the security group in the Cat A prison in Wood Hill in Milton Keynes. So, yeah, good career. Time to move on. Floated around in Civvy Street for a bit. Struggled, to be honest. then was very fortunate to be introduced to a mental health charity, a national mental health charity, where I had oversight and directive on mental health services within London. A really very positive role. We really did work hard as a team in London, supporting those that had been sectioned, placed into hospitals, as well as the community aspect. But that was under the statutory services of the Mental Health Act, the Care Act, and alike. Tough times. We rode through as a team. COVID, and came out, took the choice to leave, and then was successful in the role that I'm currently in, which is regional manager for Walking with the Wounded for East of England and London, of which I'm 7 months in, and this grumpy old man is still smiling, which is rare. That's my son. But yeah, so and I'm developing, very much lucky. I've got a blank canvas, new role, able to develop, working in conjunction with the NHS and local authorities, both in London and the counties, the eastern counties. And it's fantastic. It's a challenge. It's quite upsetting to see veterans in a bad place, but equally, I have got a fantastic team who are very professional in working with some of the most damaged people that we have in our society, and I can talk openly about that. I've been, in the world of prisons and mental health, and now in the Walking with the Wounded, and they do sterling work. The organisation is fantastic. Seriously,
yeah,
it's top end stuff.
And talking about just back, I mean, that's a brilliant summary. Thank you very much. And just coming back a little bit to the prison service, that's what really you really opened your eyes to veterans ending up in prison and the mental health issues associated with that. And I think you were mentioning while we were off screen that had a significant effect on you.
Yeah, I as a young man, I joined up just after the Falklands conflict, and I was very young. I mean, left school on a Friday, and on a Monday, I'm down in Tor Point, wondering what the hell's happened here. And so, very quickly, had to go from boy to man. Within a year, joined my first ship, and there, though I didn't recognise it at the time, witnessed some real trauma. Some lads on board had sadly been sunk down south and lost good mates, good oppos, and I couldn't put them together. But as I've grown as a man and the worlds I've been in, I now recognise that as that was raw trauma. They only 2 years previously had been sunk, and it still sticks with me now watching it, seeing when we would go into action stations and Boss and Cost and those on the chat will understand why that is. It's preparation for war, and war canoes are bloody hard places when we're not on exercise, but even harder when we are on exercise. And I kind of look back at that now, and moving on to the prison service. I had a very fantastic career and did go through the ranks, and opportunities were regular to be in charge of the prison, and some very violent situations happened. And on several occasions, you do a bit of digging with the individual that would be the perpetrator, and find out that they were an ex-service person. The violence was extreme, but they were dealing with deep trauma. And I often wondered, was it right to place them in prison? The courts do that. The prison service look after them and make them safe. But equally, his actions were in defense of someone that had autism, and he was protecting another person in custody, where you question where they should be in custody. And actually, that guy became my gym orderly in Scrubs, and we took him through level 2, level 3. He then started his own business as PT. So there's not always a silver lining, but I've got examples of where we wouldn't identify a serviceman, within a couple of days, you knew by his cell, the way he kept himself, that he'd done a bit of, service time. Did I look after him? Yeah, damn right I did. That's right too. I mean, I looked after him more. I didn't have a bad reputation, but
you were a nasty days then.
Nasty day, yeah, Marmite day. It was a good time. And then moving on, talking about the community stuff, the mental health, really focused on the Mental Capacity Act, identifying veterans there that were really, really unwell. They'd gone into being sectioned. And it worried me that they'd got to that point. A lot of it was drink related, drugs related. Again, you've got to look at the journey they've had to end up there. There's a bit of reasonableness. And also then the community mental health teams and working with them. And the homelessness, I've got a real focus on homelessness, especially veterans. Veterans lean to it. It's a safe place. Their coping mechanisms allow them to live in that environment. Ironically, even when they're very unwell. So
they've only got to look after themselves.
Yeah.
So I can imagine it being quite traumatic for you to see that in the prison and then come out of that environment and go home on a daily basis. It must have been quite traumatic.
It's funny. You don't switch off. It's the hardest, one of the hardest jobs, because you're in a very volatile environment. The service has changed. There used to be ample staff to deal with situations. We use the term jailcraft, and everyone, we hope, behave themselves, but a significant increase in drugs, violence, and with that comes serious assaults and some very unsettling situations. And you're there then to report and record it, and then report the following day. And you've got to tread carefully all the time. I miss it and I don't miss it. It's a tough role.
Yeah, I can imagine. And going back to you saying the courts have put them there, and it's a lack of understanding of the environment in which they have come from, and moving forward. I don't know whether, and I'm not an expert in it, I don't know whether there is a mechanism to catch that sort of thing apart from the charities such as Welcome the Wounded.
Well, I'm a great believer in collaboration, and I think something for me would be that the gap between leaving the service and support needs to be reduced. I'm a great believer that if a service person leaves and they feel vulnerable, that they can go somewhere safe and talk about it. Equally, be able to talk with people within the service without fear, because we all have wobbles, and it's not a case of pulling up your socks and cracking on. I had a very successful military career, and for close to 30 years I've been managing something I should have brought to the fore when it happened, rather than more recently. I'm quite happy to share that in the last 18 months I've sought help, and I wish I'd done it a lot sooner. So
it's nothing to be sorry to say about. I mean, it's for so long it's been swept under the carpet. Now it's actually, it's a strong person that can actually do that. It's the right thing to do. So hats off. I think there's a good connection between you and Steve Hallett there. There's a lot of conversation you've got to have sort of over the next wee while. If you go into after this, just if anybody wants to connect to anybody in these meetings, if they go into the show itself and you can click on networking, a networking tab, then you can see everybody that attended this, and you can make connections with them. So if there's something that somebody has said that you want to pick up on in the comments, then feel free to connect and take that forward, because this is a heavy subject. and
Yes.
it's probably the heaviest subject we've had so far. But it's a really, it's quite apt that it's this week where we've had World Mental Health Day on Monday.
Yep.
So it's quite an apt one. It's a heavy subject, but he's talking about. So
I mean, you're absolutely right, Matt. It is a heavy subject. It affects a small percentage of service leavers, which is a good thing, not a large percentage. So I think, we're very much at Walking with a Wounded veteran focused. It's about doing a small piece of work correctly rather than lots of pieces, average. And the journey can be shortened and the outcome be more successful for who's been supported. But yes, it's a tough subject, but
Yeah, I mean, Jerry's made a point here. Is there any comment you want to make on
that. Do you think veterans' first point offer is enough? What's enough? I mean, we work on individual bases, so I guess it's just about open communication for me and allowing people to open up.
Yeah. We've got a LinkedIn user. We don't know who you are. You're connected to one of us. Just pop your name in the chat. This is probably a little bit bigger than we can talk about in the half hour we've got. But there's definitely another chat. If we know who you are, we can reach out and have a conversation. I'm going to wind back a little bit again back into the Royal Navy and your decision to leave. So if we could just explore your decision to leave, what was available, what influenced your decision to go into the prison service?
Well, I guess, I'll be brutally honest, joining up so young and only really knowing one and having one job, it is an institution in that truest sense. You're surrounded by your oppos, oppos for life. And I miss that massively, whether that's an age thing or the great service that I had. I laughed for the time that I was in. And when you join Civvy Street, there's none of that. So I put it down to being a teenager. Equally, I was in a fantastic place, and then in Civvy Street, no one understands you. They really don't. And I guess at the time, in the kind of early mid-90s, it took about 18 months to join the prison service, and so it. From application to actually starting was about 18 months. So it was a long process of which I was willing to hang in there for. And I'm glad I did, because it gave me a learning spell in Civvy Street, which I didn't really enjoy at all. And then I went into another service now and had a great period of nearly 20 years. So should I have come out of the Navy? I don't know. But what it's done is set me up to where I am now. So I can't live on any regrets of leaving jobs. What it's done is tapered the way I'm now and my role that I'm in. I think I'm reasonably well placed to carry out my role.
Yeah. So that was, so you felt you sought the security of another uniformed type service, which did you feel that, we're talking 20 years ago. That's about the same time that I came out, and I just did a measly 3. So I just got a bag of gold and off you trot my laddie. So is it similar to your experience?
No, I think if I remember rightly, it was a chief asked for my ID card, cut it in half, took my AGR off me, placed a one-way train ticket in my hand, and looked at me as if I was, a bad smell. So, that was resettlement after a term. I'm hoping it's a little bit better than that now. But you were not so much officially, service is no longer required, but you weren't part of the gang anymore once you walked out.
You're at the club.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we're sort of demonstrating to people through these series of veterans' voices that it's not just project management and close support. there's a lot more out there, and it's just having that understanding of where you can go and what you need to do to get there. So just give me a little bit more about you've been with Walking with the Wounded for
7 months.
7 months, and it's quite a startling fact you gave me, and I wasn't aware that the majority of your cases are mental health cases.
Yeah, we're plus 90% mental health cases. I mean, we work in collaboration with the NHS on the high intensity services, which is a fantastic collaboration partnership of clinical expertise plus my staff and the organisation staffs, veteran support liaison officers who work then on what's identified as the socio-economic aspects, which is debt, housing, and many more. I mean, essentially it's first class case management, and they basically chip away at the issues that then are supported by the clinical team with the mental health issues, which then lowers the risk, which places the beneficiary in a safer place. So then we start looking to empower them. So we give them the opportunity to identify themselves again, and then we work with that journey, and then you then nicely hand them over to then other organisations that continue that journey. They've served, so they deserve, which is very much a unique selling quote of ours, is that they serve and they deserve. And then we put them back into the communities that they once came from, and contributing to the communities and feeling better about themselves. And equally, this isn't just about the vet, this is about the family members as well, because they need the mechanism that they bring needs supporting also. It is about a very holistic approach for all parties affected.
You mentioned offline that you had a couple of case studies that you could share, and to give an example of some of the stuff that you do.
Yeah, well, I mean, we are a charity, so we require support. We go and fundraise on events, and we have a thing called a quick response fund, which basically is gifts and charity gains, and people leaving stuff in their wills and etc. And one case was absolutely took us back, really. A young lad hadn't worked for 11 years, had really been in a dark place, in and out of situations where he just couldn't see the wood for the trees. 11 years unemployed. We work with him. We work with other organisations, supported with courses, and one of my members of staff found him a role, because we do employment as well. Nurtured him into that role. We got supported with buying camping gear, and after 11 years, this lad did a summer season festivals as security. Took himself back after his shift, after his watch, back into his tent, made himself a wet, got up the next day and did it all again. And he maintained that over the summer. And for someone that's been troubled for that long, that's a fantastic outcome. A real positive outcome. So the kind of detail we do, but equally supporting with train tickets to get to therapy, supporting with bus passes to get to interviews, buying safety boots, buying uniforms so they can start work. I do a lot of work with developing relationships with building organisations and opportunities under the Armed Forces Covenant and the VPPP, about working in collaboration with organisations within the region and aligning work and employment and volunteering opportunities. If they're not employable yet, they just need that outreach and that to feel purpose by volunteering. So it's a huge enjoyable role, and with it being brand new, I've got a blank canvas in some ways, just cold calling, but equally LinkedIn has been huge asset. You know, the amount of contacts we've made with organisations that you know, want to be part of the Armed Forces Covenant, and connecting up with them and encouraging them with their bronze, silver, and gold. I mean, we're going off now on you know, on different combos, but it is about collaboration and groups of people doing little bits of really good work to move the beneficiary on to a safer place.
Excellent. Hats off. I think you've got a good couple of connections here, and Steve and Susan, worth a chat afterwards, I think. Before we finish, there's a couple of things for us to talk about. One of them is walking home for Christmas.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you want to just give us a little bit of a...
Yeah, it's clearly new to me, but we have a Christmas event, fundraising event, 9th of December. Planned walks in London, Newcastle, and Manchester. But if unable to attend or be part of them, you can do your own self walks. Go online, join up, get yourself some shillings in your savings and place them on your page, and we move forward. And you know, I can say openly that I authorise up to a certain level where the money's going. There's nothing better than getting a request from a member of staff asking for an amount of money to help someone out for, you know, even if it's some shopping or a train pass, as I've said, or, you know, we more recently supported a veteran who showed some real skills with photography, and he did our photography at the Cumbrian Challenge in May earlier this year. Very troubled lad. Fantastic personality, had some hardships, and took a hefty business case, but we've now set him up with his own photography business.
Excellent.
Yeah, and that's through
that's a real good success story.
It's through gifting and generous people understanding that their money will be used rightly, and you know, I can stand here and say it is used rightly. You know, I think we have a social return of every pound contributed, we get a return of around £3 socially.
Right.
So that's, you know, I believe that's a very good thing to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely, very good, really good success story. And there's a lot of love coming in for you here, Dave. But you said it could get grim, a bit of the Navy banter coming in, but they've all behaved themselves, and there's a lot of love coming in. So
clearly they're on the second dogs. They're still listening. At sea. I mean, in fairness, those that I did invite, I was expecting some flack incoming, but I've not had to brace yet.
Very, very well behaved. So two more things to talk about. First of all, if you check Dave's profile out, you see he's wearing a beanie hat. What's with the beanie hat?
Oh, that's, I mean,
because I said to you, you said, what do you think to my picture? I said, don't wear glasses and don't wear a hat. And you went, oh, I wear a hat. Because,
well, it's I guess it's like the green lids and maroon lids, and it's the field gun. It's my beanie is Portsmouth field gun. Really, if you don't know about it, you need to find out about it, because it's what made many servicemen what they are today. And it was a great recruiter until unfortunately it was stopped in '99. A most fantastic experience. I mean, beasting beyond beastings. But I've seen my son said, I can start giving flack if you want it. Yeah. Remember, I used to change his name.
Yeah, that's it. There we go. There's probably a bit more flack can be chucked back.
Yeah. But yeah, Phil Gunn, we had a reunion back in the summer, and you know, there's less hairlines now and more grey, and but it's great seeing. They're oppos for life. They really are.
Yeah. And just to clarify, Steve, it's a senior service because it's full of a bunch of old guys. That's what it really is, isn't it?
There is the senior service, yeah, and the rest just follow behind.
Yeah. And for those who wondered what a wet was earlier on, to the rest of us in the other forces, it's a brew. So that's the translation there. Finally, we're bang on the half hour. What is your veteran's voice to people leaving the armed forces?
Go with your heart. Have a plan, but equally be prepared for it not to come to fruition. Bring the skills that you have into Civvy Street, because you're valuable. You are valuable, and you will become more valuable. So I encourage, do your time, enjoy it, and then bring the skills into Civvy Street. And where I was as a 16-year-old to where I am now, what a journey. Didn't expect to be sat here, firstly, but secondly in the role that I am, and just take opportunities as well.
Yeah. And it's quite often we'll run over a little bit because it's you do know things, it's just you don't know the language to communicate them in, and speaking to organisations like yourselves, and learning that city language, so to speak, and how to communicate those fantastic skills that we learn through service is really important. Dan, I see you've joined at the end. We're just about to jump off. Thank you very much, Dave, for joining us and telling us about your journey and the wonderful work you've done. Thank you very much.
I've worked with some fantastic staff, prison service, Navy, the mental health organisation, and this organisation. Change doesn't come about through individuals; it comes about through teams. Very much so.
Yeah. So yes, well, thank you very much for that. It's been a dark subject. We made a little bit of light of it at the end, and there's some really interesting nuggets and some really interesting connections, and hopefully those connections will help make a difference. So if you've enjoyed it, let us know and like it, and tell your mates so we can increase the following. If you didn't enjoy it, don't like it and don't tell your mates. And but we're on a break next week because I'm away, and join us in a couple of weeks' time. But for now, thank you very much, Dave, and good night, everybody.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Cheers. Good night.